What's up guys, it's Will back again, and today's review is the action-adventure film Tomb Raider. Directed by Roar Uthaug and based on the Tomb Raider video game series, this rebooted Tomb Raider film follows the iconic protagonist Lara Croft once again. Lara is the daughter of adventurer Richard Croft, and 7 years after his disappearance, she heads out in search of him to figure out what happened to him, and eventually she lands on an island that she believes to be her father's last known destination. But once she gets there, she runs into an evil organization known as Trinity, which is in search of an artifact they can use for their own malevolent schemes. As Lara attempts to find out what happened to her father, she first needs to fight off the evil shadow organization known as Trinity. Alright, so we have another video game movie here. Another movie that I think most of us set the bar for pretty low because of, the long-running history of poor video game adaptation films. I mean, there's a few good ones here and there, actually kind of like Warcraft actually, but generally speaking, yes, video game movies are like 95% of the time really bad. So obviously I didn't go into Tomb Raider expecting too much. But honestly, this has to be the biggest surprise of the year thus far for me. I kind of really liked it. I don't think it's a perfect film or even an amazing one, but I think it's actually pretty solid and very entertaining, which is what I think most people are really expecting and hoping for out of a Tomb Raider film. I will however say that my experience with the Tomb Raider franchise is pretty much next to nothing. I've never played any of the games, I hadn't seen any of the two films with Angelina Jolie in them, and I didn't know much about Lara Croft as a character coming into the film. So needless to say, I didn't go into the theater with an abundance of different expectations. I expected the movie to be bad, but that was honestly about it. I mean, I know it's sort of an exotic story about adventurers and family and all that, but that was about the extent of my knowledge about this franchise. And I think a major reason I love this movie so much was because it reminded me of an Uncharted game. And if you're not familiar with the Uncharted franchise from Naughty Dog, it's about a treasure hunter named Nathan Drake who goes on fantastical treasure hunting adventures that end up with him fighting some evil shadow organization. And that's basically the gist of what's going on in this Tomb Raider film too. Lara Croft isn't going in search of treasure necessarily, she's looking to find out what happened to her father, but it still has the treasure hunting adventure vibe to it, because her dad and Trinity were both pursuing this ancient relic, I guess you could say, but for different reasons. I think Tomb Raider will absolutely work for you if you plan on going to see a fun, exciting, and action-packed adventure story, and one that feels similar to what you'd get out of, say, an Indiana Jones movie. Now, I'm not saying Tomb Raider is as good as Indiana Jones, but I am saying that the vibes and the adventure aspects feel fairly similar, and they'll likely satisfy you if that's what you're looking for and expecting. There's several exciting and well-executed action scenes that actually had me gripping my seat because I was really nervous for Lara. She pulls off some incredible feats in this movie, and it helps that the action is paced pretty well for the most part. And it's very exciting too, which is most likely the primary interest here for moviegoers. However, like I mentioned, this is not a perfect film, and sometimes video game movies can tend to overdo it with the editing especially. I'm not sure if the choreography just wasn't holding up on final edit or they wanted the fight scenes to feel more frantic, I'm not really sure, but anytime Lara starts fighting someone and the editing starts cutting back and forth frantically, it's pretty difficult to tell what's going on. It's not like Resident Evil Final Chapter bad or anything, because that's like the worst I've ever seen, but it's a weakness considering how jarring and even frustrating it can be for you as a viewer. Generally speaking though, I actually found Tomb Raider to be a rather nice looking film, both from a CG and a cinematography perspective. And I think the reason the visuals work so well is because they serve the purpose of making the film feel like this grand and exciting adventure story. It's like it's taking you, the viewer, and introducing you to this exotic and beautiful, yet dark and violent underworld of treasure hunters and adventurers. And it does so by showing you beautiful locations and settings, and it just helps immerse you into this adventure aspect of Lara Croft's story. Speaking of Lara Croft though, I really do love Alicia Vikander in this role. And it helps that I love her in basically any role because I think she's just a stellar actress, but I actually feel like she brought a lot of likability to the character of Lara Croft. I felt very invested in her character because she was strong and admirable and just very likable in almost every sense. Everything she does falls in line with your pretty much standard protagonist nowadays that certainly has a few flaws here and there, but ultimately has noble intentions and end goals. This is absolutely the Lara Croft show, and she receives quite a bit of development over the course of the film here as the main character, and she has depth to her, and that's kind of what I liked about her. And when you combine quality writing and the depth with a great performance from Alicia Vikander, you have a really great protagonist here in Lara Croft. The writing isn't always great though. There's definitely moments where the dialogue feels a little more like it would fit in a video game more so than in a movie, and you could say that as well about some of the characters themselves and how certain situations escalate on screen. And I think the best example probably would be Walton Goggins' character Matthias Vogel, who plays the villain of the film, who works overall I'd say as a character, but can occasionally feel pretty shallow and generic as a villain. I never felt like Walton Goggins was bad as a performer though, or as an actor. Quite the contrary, actually. I actually felt like he performed the part pretty nicely and did the best he could with it, but I occasionally did find myself a little underwhelmed by the villainous aspects of that character. He's just a little too generic every now and then. But overall, is anyone really going into Tomb Raider expecting a masterpiece? No. Are we expecting great characters besides Lara Croft who are really going to wow us? No, not really. But what we are expecting is excitement and adventure, and Tomb Raider actually surprisingly delivers that in a satisfying way. It also has a surprising amount of emotion to it as well, considering those familial aspects of this story. And that's the driving force of the plot, really, is Laura's desperate need to find out what happened to her father. And when you combine that with a fast-paced, high-energy adventure story that actually looks great and is acted pretty admirably, then I think you have a film that's going to satisfy the people that are interested in this type of story. And that's really what it comes down to, honestly. As for the pros cons, though, I thought Tomb Raider delivered an exciting and fast-paced adventure story, very nice visuals, and a great leading character and performance. As for the cons, the film does tend to be a little too choppy in its editing and attempt to be frantic and fast-paced, and some of the writing isn't the greatest. Overall, though, I'm going to give Tomb Raider an 8 out of 10, and recommend you check it out in theaters if you're a fan of the games, or you're just looking for an exciting adventure story. If so, I think you'll be satisfied with this one. So did you guys see Tomb Raider yet? What did you think of it? And if not, let me know why not. And also let me know your favorite video game movie. Not a lot of great options to choose from there, but there's still a few solid ones, I guess. Either way, this is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next video.